For 16 NFL seasons, quarterback Norm Snead was the league's wandering gypsy, drifting from one town to another. Despite his nomadic nature, Norm logged nearly as much mileage with his passing arm as he did by airplane.
I played for a lot of different teams. I was Washington, Philadelphia, Minnesota for a year, the Giants, San Francisco, and back to the Giants. And I think the biggest asset, based on the situations, nobody likes to play for that many different teams, was I had staying power and I could play.
Norm made every travel stop a memorable one. When he finally retired from the game, only 4 other quarterbacks had thrown for more career yardage than Norman Snead. When Norm began his career with Washington in 1961, much of his traveling was done going backwards. As the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to start all his team's games, Snead was thrown to the wolves, or thrown for big losses as leader of a struggling Redskins attack.
You make mistakes by not throwing the ball when you should and hanging on to it and trying to make things happen, and it made everyone else look bad. And that's the problem with a rookie playing. I tried to emulate some players. When I was coming along, I watched Unitas and how he threw the ball high. And I watched the Sammy Baugh, and I tried to do things that they did.
Johnny U and Slingin' Sam Norm would never be. But he overcame the Redskins' deficiencies well enough to become 1961 NFL Rookie of the Year. After 3 productive seasons in the nation's capital, all signs pointed to a long and prosperous career in Washington for the talented young quarterback. But in 1964, Norm Snead's world was forever altered by one of the most stunning trades in sports history. Snead was on his way to Philadelphia in exchange for future Hall of Famer Sonny Jurgensen, a trade that did not meet with approval in the Quaker City.
And I think all of Philadelphia was in shock. We knew Norm Snead. We played against him twice every year. Norm Snead was a pretty good player. And I don't want to undermine Norm Snead, but he was no Sonny Jurgensen. Sonny Jurgensen was something special. But, of course, there was more involved in it than that. Sonny and Joe Kriaric were not getting along. And there were some off-the-field extracurricular activities Sonny was having some problems with and all that. And I think all of that entered into it. But to trade Sonny Jurgensen even up for another quarterback, whoever it happened to be, placed, in my judgment, an intolerable burden on who that quarterback coming in happened to be. And unfortunately, it happened to be Snead.
Maybe it was a good thing for Norm, too, because he had been thrust on the field as a rookie without the surrounding cast that a young quarterback needs. And there's no question, he could throw the ball. He just needed surrounding people. So it was good for him to get out and start fresh.
Snead's grace period in Philadelphia was not a long one. The Eagles weren't much better than the Redskin team Norm left behind. And the double burden of an unpopular trade and limited supporting talent kept Snead under the microscope throughout his playing days with the Eagles.
I never thought the Philadelphia press was any rougher or tougher than any other place, or the fans for that matter. I think the fans are good fans. All they want was a winner, and they like for you to play well and win. And that's what the game's all about anyway. And if you're able to do that, they respond to you very well. If you don't, they boo Santa Claus and all that sort of thing.
Norm teased the crowds like a burlesque fan dancer, showing little of substance one season, then exploding for 29 touchdown passes the year after. This created a classic love-hate relationship between Snead, the fans, and his teammates.
I will say this for Norm, as a receiver of his, there were times when Norm was so on in a ball game that I felt that I had never run a pass pattern for a better quarterback in my entire life. And then there were other games when it didn't look like he was the same guy, and I never could figure out whether that was a mental thing or what.
When Eagles' fortunes finally hit rock bottom, Snead became the designated scapegoat and was shipped out to Minnesota. Despite joining a contender, Norm's days with the Vikings were not happy ones.
Bud Cran and I didn't see eye to eye, and we just didn't hit it off. So he played, other people. As I started 4 games, and Gary Quazzo started about 5 or 6, and Bob Lee started 4 or 5 games. So we got in the playoff, and there was a lack of leadership, and it hurt us. And then I was traded to the Giants, and I was able to take advantage of a situation, and I was able to utilize that system. And it was a fun year. When my father came to visit me at Yankee Stadium, we took him to practice on a Saturday morning. He walked out to center field and he saw the statues, and he was standing out there with tears running down his eyes. He said, "This has got to be the greatest thrill in the world, just to even play in this stadium."
In the 12th season of his career, Norm Snead finally struck gold. He led the 72 Giants to their first winning record in a decade and became the top-ranked passer in all of football. After 3 seasons in New York, Snead packed his bags again, this time for San Francisco, where at the age of 37, the old pro showed he could still throw for distance and accuracy. Even in those final years, Norm could send the ball for a long, majestic ride.
My arm probably was the greatest asset that I had, in the sense that I could throw it. I had perseverance, staying power, and I was strong, and I could play hurt. And I think wherever I was at that particular time, I was able to play. And they tried to write me off for a long, long time.
Snead overcame a controversial trade and numerous rejections to survive and even prosper for 6 different teams. In the end, this wandering gypsy found a home wherever he was given one more chance to drop back and put the ball in flight.